to another exciting review of The Richest Man in Babylon. Yes, this book teaches us about money, how to make money, how to save money, how to make your money make more money. All right, please sit back, relax as we enjoy it. You are most welcome. So, today we're going to be looking at chapter 8 of this book, which is titled The Camel Trader of Babylon. There are so many lessons in this chapter. The hungrier one becomes, the clearer one's mind works. Also, the more sensitive one becomes to the odors of food. Takad, the son of Azuri, certainly thought so. This guy had not had anything to eat for 2 days, except for two small figs that he picked from somebody's tree, right? And before he could even pick another one, the owner of the garden chased him away, screaming at him. So it was then that he realized how much food was brought to the market and how good the food smelled. It was then that he realized how hungry he really was. Every food was smelling so good to him. He was poor, he was in debt, and he now decided to go to a restaurant. But because he did not have any money on him to enter this restaurant, he started pacing back and forth in front of the restaurant, hoping that somebody will find him to give him 1 copper, so that at least he could enter the restaurant. It's called inn actually in this book, INN, but let me use restaurant, so that he could enter the restaurant to he could be able to gain access into the restaurant if he had money. Otherwise, he would not even be able to sit down there if he did not order any food. You know how it goes down. But as he was there, unfortunately for him, as he was pacing up and down in front of the restaurant, looking for somebody to borrow him 1 copper, who did he meet? He met his creditor, somebody that he was owing money. The name of the man was Dabasir. And Dabasir was like, haha, very, very good. You, this boy, you've been owing me 2 coppers. When are you going to pay my money? Pay my money now. Right? And the guy said, well, I'm sorry, I cannot pay you your money because ill fortune had befallen him. And Dabasir told him, how can you say ill fortune has befallen you when actually you cannot pay, or you are not living a good life because of your own weakness, because of your own mistakes, or because of your own slothfulness in life? So Dabasir told him, okay, come into the restaurant. At least he was even given access into the restaurant, right? Come into the restaurant and let us eat. Oh, no, not let us eat. While I eat. And they decided to take him inside. They sat on a rug and Dabasir ordered food, all kinds of food, an entire goat leg and different different delicacies, right? And as this young guy, Takad, was thinking, maybe Dabasir will share some of the food with him, Dabasir said, please drink water for this, my friend, right here. Make sure the water is cold because the weather has been hot. And as they sat down there, he decided to tell him a story. And the moment he said, we'll tell him a story, all the other people in the restaurant, they said, Dabasir is going to tell a story. They all came closer with their foods and everything. And they were all eating. It was only this young guy, this hungry guy, Takad, that was without food in their midst. So his sensitivity, his sensitivity was very, very high. And Dabasir started by telling them, did you know that I was once a slave in Syria? Apparently, they did not know. So he decided to tell them that when he was a young man, he learned the trade of his father of making saddles, and then he craved the good things of life that he could not afford. So as a young man, he got married. And he and his wife were living the good life. They started living beyond their means. At first, he would go to the shop owners, he would buy things. At first, he was able to pay. Before you knew it, their appetites grew. So he would then go for things that he could not pay for. He would then go for things that he could not pay for. At first, they were giving him because at least he had a job doing. And he was honorable, he would pay back, buy on credit, pay back. But as time went by and as their appetites grew, and they now got accustomed to buying on credit, to borrowing, it got to a point where he could no longer pay for the things that he was buying. Being young and without experience, I did not know that he who spends more than he earns is sowing the winds of needless self-indulgence, from which he is sure to reap the whirlwinds of trouble and humiliation. This is why you should not get used to that. You should try to live within your means. The moment you start borrowing, it can be very, very addictive. And especially if you find people who are generous enough to keep lending you. Before you call, they've given you, oh, I'm going to pay back, it becomes a bad habit. And you are not borrowing for a good cause. You are borrowing to consume. Not that you are borrowing to start a business or to put it into a worthwhile investment that will yield more money for you. You are borrowing to consume. It is very dangerous and you should avoid it, right? So before they knew it, they started buying all sorts of luxury things and they were living beyond their means. They were able to pay at first, but later on they couldn't pay anymore. So it became a thing of humiliation to him. His creditors began to pursue him. He discovered that he could not use his earnings to live again and to also pay his debt. It was not possible. He couldn't pay for his extravagant purchases and life became very miserable for him. Then he turned to his friends to start borrowing money that he could not pay, right? And things went from bad to worse. What happened? His wife, when the extravagant life could not continue, she went back to her father's house. She abandoned him. And what did he also do? He left the city of Babylon and he ran away. For 2 years, he went to this country. I think, is it Damascus? I'm not sure now. He went to another city and he joined a group of people who were going from one place to another in caravans. And these guys were thieves. So he decided to join them because he didn't have money. Well, before then, he was actually working for caravan traders. But the 2 years that he worked, he had nothing to show for it. So that was when he decided to join these guys who were thieves and they would rob people. Their first operation was successful and the loot that they got from their first operation, so typical, they squandered it. They didn't think of saving or anything. They squandered it. That is what happens when people steal. They'll feel that, oh, we can always go again for another loot. But the second time that they went, they were caught. And 2 of the leaders were killed and the rest of them were taken as slaves to Syria. When he got to Syria, he was taken to the house of this chief. The chief had 4 wives. And one of the wives, the eldest wife, Sarah, I think had a kind of a hot spot for him, for Dabasir. And then she told her husband, the chief, that we have so many eunuchs, right? Why don't this guy, let's ask him if he has knowledge about, I don't like this, the lighting. If he has knowledge about camels, because my mother is sick. This is better. Because my mother is sick, I want him to ride me to my mother and blah, blah, blah. So they asked him, oh, do you know about cattle? He said, yes. I can make them meal, I can load them, I can take them on long trips, I can do many things. I'm very, very familiar with how to ride cattle. So they said, okay, take her to her sick mother's house. And as they were going, he decided to tell this woman the story of her life, that I was not born a slave. I am the son of a free man in Babylon. My father is a honorable man. It is just the circumstances of life that made me a slave here in Syria. And he told her the story of her life, right? And the woman asked her, in fact, she gave her some word punches, said, how can you call yourself a free man When your weakness, do you know his weakness? The weakness of not being able to live within his means, not controlling his appetite. He wanted to live an extravagant life that he could not afford. That was his weakness. When your weakness has brought you this, your weakness has made you a slave. If a man has in himself the soul of a slave, will he not become one, no matter what his birth? Even as water seeks its level. And if a man has the soul of a free man, will he not become respected and honored in his own city, in spite of his own misfortune? Those punches made him come to his senses that truly, I am not a slave. I should not have the soul of a slave. I should not think like a slave. And from that day onward, anytime the slaves were gathered in one corner in the evening and they were mingling and enjoying themselves, he would go and sit down alone. He would not even mingle with them, because he proposed to them himself that even though he was a slave at that point in Syria, he refused to have the soul, the mindset of a slave. And that was the beginning of his freedom. So your physical looks, regardless, it is your soul, your mindset that actually dictates who you are. You can be a free person on the outside, but how do you reason? What are your thoughts? Do you think like a slave? Do you think like you are defeated? Do you think like a failure? Do you think like a beggar? These are the things that actually define you, not what people can see on the inside. Right. So he started separating himself. He said, I refuse to have the soul of a slave. That was the day that his freedom began. But he now questioned this lady as well, the eldest wife, Sarah, to say, I also noticed that you don't mingle with the other women, the other wives. Why is it so? And she said, she confided in him and said that her dowry was very large. And that was why the chief married her, even though he did not desire her. And every woman longs to be desired. So she was not enjoying her marriage. She felt like she was in bondage. And to make matters worse, she was barren. She had no children. So she was living an unhappy life. But she had no choice. She said that if she happened to be a man, she would have even died instead of being a slave. So she herself was like a slave. Unfortunately for her, the custom, the tradition of Syria at that time made slaves of women, right? And at this point, she asked Dabasiro, do you desire to repay the debts that you are owing people in Babylon? If you have the soul of a free man, you are not supposed to run away. You have to repay your debts that you owe in Babylon. And he said, yes, I want to repay my debts, but I don't see any way of repaying. And he said, no, that is thinking like a slave. You now have to start thinking like a free man. Otherwise, you will not respect yourself, and no man is going to respect you. People lent you money out of their generosity. And he said, well, what can I do when I'm a slave in Syria? And she said to her, you are a weakling. And he said, I am not a weakling. Then prove it that you are not a weakling, right? Prove it that you are not a weakling. Your debts are your enemies. The kings fight his enemies. We all fight our enemies. Oh, die, my enemies must be disgraced. My enemies must be this. But sometimes you are your own enemy. And in this case, he said, thy debts are thy enemies because they made you run away from Babylon. You left them alone. They grew too strong for you. If you had stayed in Babylon like a free man, like a strong man, you would have fought them off. You would have conquered them, and you would have regained your honor and missed your creditors. But you decided to run away. You need to have the soul to fight. So this is a message to you. You should have the soul to fight. Whatever is standing in the way of progress, what's in the way of your progress, whatever is that thing that wants to conquer you, that wants to make sure that you don't succeed in life, you have to fight with everything that you've got inside of you. Don't chicken out. Don't concede defeat. And I said that this lady had some sort of soft spot for her. So on this particular day, she told the chief that her mother was sick again, and that Dabasil should get the camels ready, that they were going to see her mother. She tried to pack food as if they were going on a long journey, not knowing that she had a plan. And as they got to her mother's house, she dismissed the maid that went with them and told Dabasil that do you have the soul of a free man or the soul of a slave? And he said, I have the soul of a free man. And she told him, now prove it. Take these camels and escape from here. She gave him the raiment of the chief to disguise as if he was the chief, his master, so that he would not be caught that he stole the camels. And it was at this point that he took the camels. There were two camels. He rode on one, he led the other, and he went through the desert, even though he did not know his way. But that soul of a free man, that determination inside of him, that he must go back to Babylon and make his wrongs right and approach his creditors, meet them face to face, and start living again as a honorable man. It was a very rough and tough journey. He spent 9 days in the desert, going through lands, rocky deserts where nobody inhabited. The camels were tired, they were hungry, they ran out of food, there was no water. On the 9th day, he passed out. The camels too were somewhere, and at this point, he thought that he was going to die, that the end had come for him. But the soul of a free man and the determination inside of him to make it through to Babylon, then he got up again in the morning. If he collapsed like the previous night, he did not wake up until morning, and he started thinking of all the words that the eldest wife of the chief, Sarah, told to him, that indeed, if you are not a weakling, you must prove it. You must have the soul of a free man. You must have a victorious soul. No matter the challenges of life, you must not concede defeat. You must be victorious. If you are not conquered in your mind, if you do not allow your spirit to be down, irrespective of what may be going on around you, you are going to be victorious indeed, because the strength that you need to fight is inside. People may be seeing a dejected man on the outside, but if you do not lose that strength inside, you will fight. And this was the strength that he had. He remembered her words. The words kept ringing in his head. Your deaths are your enemies who have run thee out of Babylon. And this words came ringing in his head, and he got up with every fiber in him with renewed vigor. The camels saw it. The camels also managed. They persevered and they rose up. This was a new vision to him, and they continued on their journey, right? And eventually they got to Babylon, and he went to all the people that he was owing. He talked to them one-on-one. He explained to them that the debt made him run away from Babylon, but now he is back. He's going to seek employment. He's going to put his hands to work, and he promised them that they should give him some time, that he was going to pay. In fact, one of the people that he was owing, the guy that we learned about yesterday, Matron, the money lender, helped him, connected him to somebody who was into camels as well, because of his experience in Syria as a camel rider, connected him, and he started earning some income, and little by little, he started paying his debts, right? There's a statement that he made here. He said, the soul of a free man looks at life as a series of problems to be solved, and solves them, while the soul of a slave whines, what can I do? Who am I but a slave? People will complain, they will murmur, they will whine. Oh, I have no money, I have no job. What can I do? What if? If only my dad was rich. That is the soul of a slave. If only I had the money, if only I had money to start that business. Where there is a will, there is a way. Where there is determination, a way would be found. That is the case of this guy. So he met them one-on-one, right? In fact, he met them one-on-one, and he told them, I am going to pay you up. Just give me some time. Some of them were happy that he even approached them. Some of them were bitter against him, And like I said, one of them helped him and connected him to somebody who would help him to earn more money. By the time he was done with his story, remember we started with a young man named Takad. Takad had tears well up in his eyes. He was moved. All the while, that he's been hungry. They did not offer him food, right? That made him sensitive. That made the story and the lessons in it to sink in. So sometimes you need a little bit of problem for you to come to your senses. In fact, I believe that sometimes God sends some challenges our ways so that He can bring us back to our right senses. If enjoyment is too much or life is all good and everything, we will not think. We will not think outside the box. Sometimes we will not even want to pray. It is hard to pray when everything is going well in our lives. Everything is rosy, money is there, you have slaves, the cars are there, no challenges. You may even forget God. But this guy, because he was hungry, he absorbed the lessons. He was moved to tears. And that was also the beginning of his own freedom as well, financial freedom. And he learned to stop borrowing money, especially for consumption, to start living within his means. And even if you run into problem, don't have the soul of a slave, have the soul of a free man. Stand, face your problems, come up with solutions, right? Don't run away from your problems. They will always catch up with you. So this guy regained his honor, he regained his respect in Babylon. He put his hands to work. From the connection he got to start tending to camels, he started becoming a rich man, rich and rich and rich and rich and rich, until he eventually became very rich to the point that he was enjoying his life. And when he was done with his story, he was generous enough to ask the waiter to bring Takad some very good foods. He just wanted him to listen to the story, hungry, with appetite, food appetite and sense appetite, brain, every kind of appetite, right? And he said, he ended the story that way. That Basil, the camel trader of old Babylon, he found his own soul when he realized a great truth, a truth that had been known and used by wise men long before this time. I hope that you also got this truth. So in conclusion, where the determination is, the way can be found. Determination is all you need. Sometimes I hear some people say, oh, I didn't start that business because of money. I didn't do this because of money. I didn't do that because of money. I'm sure you've heard a part of my own story. When I went for my postgraduate studies abroad, I did not have any money. I had determination, and that determination saw me through. The money eventually came. Scholarships eventually came. So if you have that determination, you will pursue whatever you want to pursue with every fiber in you, and you will eventually attract the money that you need, right? So in everything that you do not lose your determination. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for tuning in. Please don't forget to like this video, share your comments with me in the comment section below, and please subscribe to this channel in case you're yet to subscribe. I remain Olaide Agbaje, also known as First Lady, and on this channel, I inspire you to live intentionally. I'll come your way again tomorrow, and we're going to be looking at the clay tablets from Babylon. The lessons of Babylon were found by some professors in England at the University of Nottingham, and it changed their financial misery into prosperity. You don't want to miss it. I'll see you tomorrow. Until then, be intentional. Bye.